Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to this informative Zoom webinar organized by Women Focus Canada. Women Focus Canada is a Canadian incorporated not-for-profit organization, and it has a mandate to address gender-based violence, promote mental health and gender rights and equality for women and girls. It also has the mandate to empower individuals to improve their lives and contribute to the social economic development of their communities. WFC, that's the Women Focus Canada, is dedicated to advancing women, girls, and youth education and improving the health in diverse communities in Canada and beyond. So it's no surprise that WFC is holding this important informative seminar today. So I want to welcome everyone. My name is Buki Abioye, and I will be moderating the session today. So this series is designed specifically for the Afro-Caribbean community in the GTA and other communities are welcome. So this is not the first of the series. This is like the third, and we still have other series coming up. So we ask that you stay tuned and please keep in touch and get connected with WFC. You can learn more about WFC and also find out about future sessions on womenfocuscanada.org. That's the website for WFC. The goal of the webinar is to learn about intimate partner violence during COVID-19. So the first speaker today, is Dr. Oluremi Adewale. She is the president and CEO and also founder of Women Focus Canada. It's a privilege and an honor to introduce Dr. Remy. Dr. Remy, please over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. Thank you for joining us today from wherever you are joining us from. We want to appreciate you. We are shaped by our experiences and stories, as we also are shaped by our beliefs and our values. Some of the information we will be sharing today, including the lived experience and the materials, are powerful and may elicit reactions and feelings. We invite you to practice what you find helpful, including talking with your healthcare provider, a supportive friend, or a family member. The information that we are providing you today is not intended to replace you seeking medical advice. For the purpose of this presentation, intimate partner violence, domestic violence, abuse and violence are being used interchangeably. I will also use IPV for intimate partner violence in this presentation. Before going further, we want to acknowledge that this topic is very sensitive. Women Focus Canada is pleased to partner with the Redwood for people who might need additional support after this webinar. If someone you know is living in an abusive relationship as a result of the lockdowns, or if someone is triggered because of the content of these conversations today, there are counselors available through the iDetermine. Individuals can call the Redwood Counseling phone number that you can see right now is 416 if you're in Toronto, 533-8538. Or you can text them to 647-370-8300. Or live chatting on the Redwood new website, iDetermine.ca. iDetermine is one of the few chat tools in Ontario to support those who are at risk of abuse or violence due to COVID-19, and it is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week phone line. COVID-19 has impacted lives. According to the World Health Organization 2000, intimate partner violence is the most common form of violence. Globally, 1 in 3 women worldwide have experienced physical and/or sexual violence by an intimate partner or sexual violence by any perpetrator in their lifetime. Globally also, as many as 38% of murders of women are committed by a male intimate partner. Violence against women tends to increase during every type of emergency, such as the one that we are right now, the COVID-19. Some of the recommendations by the World Health Organization to mitigate the effects of violence on women and children include making community members aware of the increased risk of violence against women during the pandemic, keeping in touch and supporting women who are subjected to violence, providing information about where survivors can get help, and of course, providing strategies for coping with stress at home. Absolutely, this is why Women Focus Canada has partnered with the Canadian Red Cross Society to provide education, information, and resources to address violence against women and girls during COVID-19 pandemic. This slide here highlights an interview by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC, on how COVID-19 had compounded the risk of intimate partner violence and domestic violence. The interview was done in April of this year. It is now anticipated by me, based on what I have read, that this rate of IPV due to COVID by now will have increased than what was shared with us in April. According to the Minister of Women and Gender Equality in Canada, the COVID-19 pandemic has intensified women and families' experiences domestic violence. The minister states also that COVID had empowered domestic violence abusers as the rates of violence in parts of Canada has increased. In some places, she said, the calls for help has gone up to 400%, referencing the circumstances facing one shelter in the Greater Toronto area. You will agree with me that this is a significant jump in number, 400%. So, who are those populations that are at risk, most risk for violence? Some of them are listed here. Women and girls representing almost 70% of victims associated with police-reported cybercrime incidents. We also know that Indigenous people, senior women, individuals with disability, refugees, non-starter individuals, especially women. Of course, the LGBTQI2S also has been impacted, according to the Status of Women Canada 2016 report. So now what is intimate partner violence, or I say IPV? Intimate partner violence refers to behavior of an intimate partner, or in some situation, an ex-partner that causes, for example, physical, sexual, or psychological harm, including physical aggression, sexual coercion, psychological abuse, and controlling behaviors. Intimate partner violence can occur in any relationship, regardless of the gender, the socioeconomic status, the sexual orientation. However, we know based on studies that women especially the transgender and the gender non-binary individuals, are particularly likely to experience intimate partner violence. IPV can be a one-time use of force, or it could happen in a pattern. Regardless of how many times it happens, violence is unacceptable, and it is against the law in Canada. Violence should not be acceptable, and it should be against the law in every other country worldwide. Violence is not a personal family matter. Do not stand by and watch someone being abused. For the purpose of this presentation, just to be clear that we are focusing mostly on women and on girls. We recognize, however, that men and boys can also be victims of intimate partner violence perpetrated by women and girls towards them. That being said, intimate partner violence is primarily perpetrated by men towards women, and women are overwhelmingly impacted by this. Intimate partner violence can have immediate and long-term complications on women's health and can affect women's confidence and their dignity. So what are some of the signs and indicators of abuse or violence? These are some of the signs, and they are more than this. In physical, you might see treatments on untreated injuries, or you might see someone that likes or visits doctor's office frequently with similar injury. In sexual abuse, you might see incident of rape, unwanted touching, or sexual acts. In terms of psychological or emotional, you might see some signs of anxiety or depression, such as sleepless nights or disturbance with eating habits. Of course, there are also behavioral concerns. A noticeable change in behavior, such as increase in substance use. Someone that wasn't taking substance before or was taking a little substance started increasing the amount. Of course, verbal example would be an insult, cursing people, name calling, or recalling of past mistakes by partner. There are also cultural signs and indicators. A big one right now is the female genital mutilation. Also, you can also see what we call spiritual abuse. It could happen when people are prevented from practicing their own beliefs. There are financial abuse, when funds are withheld from you or basic needs are denied. We also have situations where people are being stalked, you are being followed and spied at work, at home, even in the community. Online violence is something that is going rampant these days, more than ever. Sending threatening emails, text messages to people. Human trafficking. People are being engaged in commercial sex acts. There is also forced marriage. An example or sign that you can see is early marriage of siblings. That in that family, you can see something like that. One thing is for you to know the signs and the indicators of abuse or violence. Another thing is for you to know how to help. There are ways that you can help when you recognize the warning signs of abuse or violence. You can encourage the individual, this time I would say the woman or the girl, not to confront the partner, especially when the woman is planning to leave. Her safety must be protected. Do not blame her for the abuse. If you do not know what to say, being present, being respectful, and listen to the individual. Encourage her to contact organization that can support her in her decision to stay or to leave. After all, it is her decision. You can offer a place, a home, as a safe haven to her children, if she has pets. Don't become angry or frustrated about her decisions. It is important to understand that she may be afraid or not ready to take the next steps. Try to understand why she might be having difficulty in getting help. She might feel ashamed. However, if her life or the life of her children are in danger, inform her and encourage her to call 911. This power and control will demonstrate different parts of abusive partner that the abusive partner can use to manipulate in a relationship. Time does not permit me to go through all of these components. You can find this. You can Google this one and read it yourself. It mentions things like using economic privilege or mere privilege, using the children. Sometimes women are being fearful because they're being threatened, or they thought the children, they can lose their children. Minimizing or denying. Using isolation, you've been denied to go out. So because of time, I will not go, but I just go through all this, but I just wanted to highlight that power and control are the center of abusive relationships. And this is another way that I like to explain briefly. Again, because of time, I will not be able to go through it. But this cycle of violence will demonstrate the dishonesty that happens in an abusive relationships. Tension is being built up when there's stress in the house or in a relationship. And that tension then, if it's not controlled, will lead to acute explosion. People have been hitting one another, cursing one another, beating one another. And then what happens again, part of being denied, is the honeymoon stage. Oh, I am sorry. It won't happen again. I promise to get counseling, sending of flowers, and before you know, the same cycle is repeating themselves again. So lastly, I want to mention that safety planning is very important. It is a top priority for everyone that is living in an abusive relationship. Offer support, information, and choices. There are community organizations that are very good in doing this. Assorted Women Helpline support anyone regardless of their gender. The number is 1-866-863-0511. They have crisis line. It is anonymous and confidential. If you don't speak English, they have up to 154 languages. So that should not be a barrier. Women Focus Canada continues to use best and promising practices that promote health and well-being, address gender-based violence and trauma. We continue to promote physical, mental, and psychological health, and gender rights and equality for girls and for women. We continue to advocate and partner with organizations serving women to build capacity and empower individuals to improve their lives and contribute to the development of their community. We are also involving organizations serving men as allies to integrate changes that can create more inclusive spaces to strengthen our communities. I invite you, rise up. I'm calling you as an individual, as a citizen, worldwide, men and boys, women and girls, family. Let's say no to women abuse worldwide. Lastly, I want to say, take care of yourself. Physically, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. Here are some of the types of self-care. if you are able, I'm not sure how much you can read, but you can Google this one. I found it online, and it gives you some points, things that you can do spiritually, meditation, yoga, connection with people, journaling. These are some of the tips that can help you during this pandemic COVID time. I want to thank you so much for listening to me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Remi Adewale. That was very informative. So right now, I'm going to introduce a second speaker. She's someone I really respect. And her name is Barrister Kemi Oduwole. She's a lawyer and managing partner at Top Mac Attorneys. That's a law firm in Toronto, Canada. It's my honor and privilege to welcome Barrister Kemi Oduwole.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to discuss the legal framework and the support government have for victims of intimate partner violence. Like all lawyers, I'll just need to have a disclaimer here that whatever information I'm sharing does not constitute a legal advice, either between me and the presenters of my law firm. Is basically for education purposes. I would advise people if they need legal options, I'm going to discuss how they can find that options for themselves. So I would really advise people to seek legal counsel before they take decisions with respect to their legal rights. So these are the things I'm going to be talking about: the effect of the COVID-19, victims' rights, applicable legislations, legal support, immigration support, and of course, some conclusion with respect to this discussion. Just like Mrs. Remi Adewale had shared earlier, and she also quoted the minister, when it comes to a pandemic season, especially as we have during the COVID-19, it's really unfortunate that statistics have shown that it has caused there to be an increase in intimate partners violence and domestic violence generally. And this is because people are in a closure. People that find support at work escape some few hours in the day, do not have the options to be able to do that, which makes it very precarious. And a pandemic does not make violence go away, it just makes it silent. And that is why organizations like Women Focus is empowering victims of violence to speak up. A lot of times people realize that victims of violence are really limited. They don't have information, they don't have support. Organizations like this is to help them and also help family and friends to be able to lend a hand, to be able to help people. So silent does not mean there is no violence or threats involved, but people just need to see and be able to help. When it comes to rights, what are the rights of the victims? Right to protection. According to the Canadian Charter of Rights, everybody has a right to be protected, and that is the hallmark of our Constitution. A lot of people, especially in cultural contexts, they are really afraid to speak out. And people need to know that they have a right. Children have a right. I was reading recently in the news a 15-year-old child in the US that was asking for emancipation. These are options that are open. Even children that are in situation of domestic violence in the home, they have a right to protection as well. Another right is police intervention, which we all know. It's easy to call 911 or the police station nearby. People should assess opportunities they have. I remember a policeman was sharing at a time that there was a traffic stop and the woman in the car was she was uncomfortable. He was wondering that, is it because I stopped the car? But these people have been well trained. He now realized she was making a hi to him. So he just called his partner. They took the woman out of the car and they realized she was actually involved in domestic violence, and the person who was carrying her actually had a weapon in the vehicle. So it is the work of the police, and they are trained in order to be able to assist people. Restraining order is another right that victims of domestic violence have. A lot of times, one of the challenges for people is where do I go? What happens to me? And restraining order is a very effective weapon or tool in the hands of the law, where the judge could ask the victim to be protected. So in such cases, sometimes if it's a dwelling home, the perpetrator may be asked not to go near the home, near the workplace, even near the children's school. Sometimes they restrict communication of any form. Sometimes there are homes where even the partner where children are involved, they could be able to see the children. For instance, we have what we call access centers. If the father is involved, because sometimes, you know, one thing that is important I've noted in my work as a family lawyer is that couples are a bad mix together, but individually, they could be a good father, they could be a good mother. But when they are together as a couple, they're a terrible mix. So the law has a way of protecting the children because children need access to both parents in so much as both parents do not pose risk to the children. So there are opportunities like access centers where a partner can drop the child, another partner can either take the child for a while or bring back the child. So these are opportunities that are open to people. A lot of times you say, oh, because of my children, I don't want to leave. If I leave, they will not have access to their father and things like that. But it's important for people to know that it is for the mental health of these children to allow them have their mother, their father in a good right space of mind. They have relationship with the dad, they have relationship with the mom, and everybody stays separate is good for everybody rather than having a misc where the children are traumatized with arguments and shouts every day. So these are options and rights that are available to victims of domestic violence, and also right to make a complaint. Especially with respect, like I said, to cultural issues. There are some culture where they think that once the woman complains about the husband, she's seen as a very bad person in quotes, or religious views that women are meant to endure in the home, they can't say anything. Where there are little signs, complaints, getting help could even help mitigate, because it is not in all cases that separation is the answer. That's why we're having a seminar like this. Sometimes there's just need for coaching. There's therapy for the couple. What do you do that annoys you? What are the triggers? Counseling sessions like that help. So once there's complaints where we're seeing just little signs of this, it helps. So it's very important. Right to information, just like we have a seminar like this, is very important. Right to restitution. Right to property, exclusive possession of family home. This is very important. A lot of people are afraid of leaving a domestic relationship, abusive relationship, because they don't know where they would stay. They don't know where upkeep is going to come from. And these are things that the government has provided. There are emergency shelters that you could call immediately, you find safety. There are shelters that help people, give them transition, help them get permanent housing. So there is a lot of support for the government. When it comes to a matrimonial home, and you go to family court, there are rules in the court as to sharing of a matrimonial home. Even if the woman is not working, even if she didn't pay a dime in buying the properties, a matrimonial home, she has a right to it. Even if she's not working, there are rules with support for the woman, for the child. So these are opportunities that are available to people, and people need to know they have this and make use of these opportunities. There are quite a number of legislations with respect to domestic violence. I will not go to that, but I just want people to know that there are lots of legislations that protect them in every area of their lives. So it's very important for people to seek legal counsel when they're in this situation, or when they have loved ones in this situation, as to how they can help them. One important thing with domestic violence is 911. I'm going to play a clip, just a 2-minute clips, on how a lady was able to seek help for 911 calls. So I just wanted to
for help. Luckily for an Ohio woman, her 911 dispatcher was listening very carefully. Michaela Marshall has the story.
Oregon 911.
I would like to order a pizza.
You called 911 to order a pizza?
Yeah, apartment.
This is the wrong number to call for a pizza.
No, you're not.
I'm getting you now.
In his 14 years of service, this is a call Oregon dispatcher Tim Tenick has never gotten before.
You see it on Facebook, but it's not something that anybody has ever been trained for. We're just trained to listen.
He says domestic violence calls are common, but not like this.
the other guy still there?
Yeah. I need a large pizza.
All right. How about medical? You need medical?
No. With pepperoni.
After this exchange, Tenick alerted officers to hurry.
Turn your sirens off before you get there. Caller ordered a pizza and agreed with everything I said that there's domestic violence going on.
Tenick says his intuition that something wasn't right kicked in, which to him reaffirms how important listening is in his line of work.
Thank you. How can I help you? Other dispatchers that I've talked to would not have picked up on this. They've told me they wouldn't have picked up on this.
Excellent dispatch work on the part of our dispatcher. Some dispatchers may have hung up.
Oregon Police Chief Michael Navarre told me that ordering a pizza to indicate domestic violence is something he's never heard of.
Not in all my years, not in my 42 years of law enforcement.
But coming up with some kind of code to alert 911 that you're in trouble is the right thing to do. The chief says if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, here's what you should do.
Somehow or another, convey to that police dispatcher that you're in trouble. And this woman did that. She did that not with her words, but with the tone of her voice.
Thanks to the quick thinking of both the
Be a call for help. Luckily for an Ohio woman, her
So one thing I want us to see from this slide is that a lot of people are mindful and they are ready to help victims of violence. You know, a lot of times people want to leave this relationship, they don't know how to. The police officer says it may not be with words, it may be with your actions and your conduct. So it's very important for victims to do that. And when it comes to legal support, apart from calling 911, victims of domestic violence can have free access to lawyers. What did I say? Free access to lawyers. And in all provinces, there's the legal aid services. In Ontario, we have the Legal Aid Ontario. And the good thing with this service is that you can even have a lawyer of your choice. So they don't necessarily impose a lawyer on you. So you can go to the directory, like in Ontario, the directory is Law Society of Ontario. You could choose a lawyer on gender. You can choose a lawyer that speaks your language that you think you're comfortable with. So this is support that is available. Another important thing is we have places like Barbara Chauffeur that helps. And with the legal aid, when you call in, there are also over 120 interpreters that will be made available on the phone immediately. So you don't have to bother, especially where people don't speak English clearly or things like that. It may want to be an hindrance for them. That should not be an hindrance at all. And they have people that would help them. And they also have family support worker. If the matter should have to go to court, they have people like social workers that will be with you all the way. And also the court services, victim service programs. They take their time because legal process could be complicated. So they take their time to explain the legal process to people. They can ask questions. For instance, if a perpetrator is going to be granted bail, they can tell the victim ahead of time. So he's no longer in jail so that you can watch your bags and things like that. So there are huge resources that the government has made available. And there is one important thing I really want to talk about is immigration support. And this is very prevalent. Canada being a multicultural community, we have people who are staying in a violent relationship because of their status in Canada. They're in this relationship because they believe that if they leave, this is the perpetrator that's either filed sponsorship for them or has brought them to Canada. But there's support for the government. Anybody that is involved in this should call legal aid immediately. There's support available for victims. The person can get a temporary resident permit at no cost. Again, at no cost. So there are a lot of opportunities that the government has made available. Once you call legal aid, you can get a temporary resident permit, you can get a work permit, and there is also programs like the humanitarian and compassionate applications that can be made for people like that and their children to have permanent status in Canada. So lack of status in Canada, uncertainty as to status in Canada is not a reason to remain in an abusive relationship. Government is aware of this and they've made a way out for victims who are involved in situations like this. And in conclusion, all I want to say is that you are not alone. Victims, you are not alone. That's why we have programs like this. There are tons of support available. And I know sometimes it could be frustrating. I have been a relative of somebody who I know is involved in domestic violence and does not want to leave the relationship. Sometimes you just wonder, are you in your right senses? But as Mrs. Adewale have said, it is a decision for that person to make, and they make it at the right time. All you need to do is support them. Let them know you are hearing here. your place is available for them. Anytime they want to make that decision, you are there to support them. That is very important for people to know, that I'm here to support you no matter the circumstances. So thank you very much. If there is any question, I'll be willing to take the questions. Thank you for listening.
Wow, that was very informative. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Barrister Oduwole. So at this time, I'm going to invite the next speaker. It's also a privilege to invite Miss Melissa to talk about a lived experience. Miss Melissa, please go ahead. Thank you.
Hello. So my name is Melissa, and I participated in a program called Women on the Move. It's based on women that have gone through domestic violence, mental health, any sort of mental health issues or domestic violence. It's really a program to bring women together, talk about certain issues, and also provide supports. For example, for me, like my life, I've gone through so much. And one of the things that I realized what caused my mental health, my mental illnesses that surfaced as I got older, was based on a domestic abuse relationship when I was younger. And it wasn't any physical or sexual, it was more psychological, emotional, and verbal. And I didn't realize how bad it was for me to gain confidence in myself, thinking I'm always going to be hopeless, feeling overwhelmed. And this program came along. And being in this program has helped me to not only find confidence within myself, but also meet other women that has gone through some sort of similarities of domestic violence. And it kind of pushed me towards working on getting into peer support. So after the program, I got into getting training for peer support worker. I got certified as a peer support worker, and now I work with 2 different organizations. One called Progress Place, which is downtown Toronto, and St. Stephen's Community House. Community House. So I pretty much deal with mental health mental health issues with adults, and with St. Stephen's, I work with youths. And without this program, I don't know where I'll be. It kind of pushed me to help others in a way that not a lot of people would think there's no support out there. And so it pushed me to that peer support aspect of just helping others that's gone through either domestic violence or have mental health, because I not only experienced domestic violence, but I also am a living proof of mental illness. And I'm just grateful. It was a really good program, and I can vouch up my yin yang to get women to come out and join Women on the Move. It's an experience that will help. I personally feel that it will help boost the confidence, but also, help you define yourself. And yeah, so that's my experience with Women on the Move. It was a great program, and if I could do it again, I would do it again. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And WFC, that's Women Focus Canada, would like to say big thank you for sharing your personal experience, your lived experience. And also this is just to let everyone know that, yes, you can do it. You can do it. Melissa is an example. So thank you so much once again, Melissa. So at this time, I would like to introduce the third speaker. And the third speaker is Ms. Avon Harris. She's the Community Outreach Manager at Redwood. Am I correct? Right?
You are.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. Please go ahead.
So thank you. As the moderator said, my name is Avon, and I am the Community Outreach Manager at the Redwood. And Redwood is a feminist organization that is that also provides all kinds of services, including housing women in a shelter situation. I'm here this evening to speak to you about things that I'm really passionate about, and that is working towards ending violence against women and girls, and also against other marginalized folks. It's not going to happen in my lifetime, but I'm going to do my darndest to make sure that we're on the track. As I mentioned before, part of my portfolio is to manage an anti-violence prevention and education program that is working outside of the community and partnering with organizations like this one. Recently, the Redwood launched a program for teen boys and men. So we're getting men involved in the conversation also to end violence against women and girls. Next slide. So my topic today is, next one. My topic today is about developing communities of care. And what that means is that in order to support women, and I'm referring particularly to women or folks that are experience violence, is to communities of care are designed to put women or folks at the center of their care. That is from a trauma-informed perspective, where we support women to speak, and really asking for folks to be surrounded by a network of organizations, people who will be able to support them as they're in the center of the care. Next. Tonight, I'm going to talk about 3 elements of community of care. One is partnership, peer support and advocacy, and mental health. And basically what that is, I'll start with partnership. Partnerships are very important in community of care. And they're, as I mentioned, they're designed, next slide. They're designed to really put people at the center. Why is partnership essential in establishing a community of care? As I said, they're designed to make appropriate referrals to different services. They're also necessary to build that bridge to encourage the kind of care that you want for yourself and for the people you serve. Building relationships is also important to have that relationship with colleagues where you have something in the bank that you can call on, because you want to make sure that the people that you're referring are already on the same page. And not only that, it prevents women from having to retell not only women, but folks from having to retell their story to every service that they go to. And we know we do it in our relationships. If you have a project, you usually go to a trusted source to get information so that you can make the best decision you can. And I believe that communities of care is really working in tandem to make sure that the end result of the client experience is a good one. Why are peer support and advocacy, which is the next slide, important? I would say that also it is part of, especially in this pandemic, everything has been kilted over, turned upside down, and providing that kind of support is very essential at this time. COVID has really back-ended us in so many ways. We know, for example, the Black community in Toronto, it's not a monolith. It is, we know we choose to come to Toronto from many parts of the world. But one thing we have in common outside of our color is our pride in community, our ability to come together. But the, COVID has really tapped into, perhaps tapped out some of the supports that we normally would have in place. And intimate partner violence really feeds on this kind of discombobulation. Intimate partner violence, or violence against women as sometimes it's referred to, really thrives on fear, pride, isolation, secrecy, intimidation, threats. And from what we're hearing, these are some of the issues that women in the Black community are currently dealing with. The COVID-19 has just exacerbated all of these abnormalities that has really captured women or put women in positions where they need to reach out, perhaps, and communities of care provide that kind of environment. The negatives of COVID, what COVID has done for us is, next, in terms of partnerships, COVID has, as I said, upended everything that we know was, that we're used to. It has put a strain on our mental health. Mental health, before there were places that we could tap into, those resources are very scarce right now. And women are, as I mentioned, are at a heightened state of mental stress before the places that are supportive, where home or work would be a safe place, that has now been upended. Women might have been able to connect at work just for a brief time within that 8-hour period. It has changed. So our mental health has really, there's been such a stress on our mental health. Folks need to congregate. We're social beings. We need that environment where we can really connect with each other. Thank you. Where we can really connect with each other, sharing information, and being a part of something where we can leave the stress of the violence and the abuse at home. That has now, we are stuck in that environment pretty much all the time. So what we want to do is to encourage women to, and this will happen in the next session, because there are resources that you can tap into to be able to make some changes, find resources, get help. We know the pandemic, we don't know when it will end, but what we do know is that there are a lot of supports around. Next. One of the mental health support that we have is, I know it was mentioned before, is I Determine, which is a chat across Ontario-wide that women can tap into to make sure that they can feel supported. They are trained counselors who provide the service. and it is 24/7. So it is available so that women can really feel that there's something out there. We're always on our phone. Women can use the text option discreetly, as in the previous video that we saw. This woman was able to get her support in a kind of a clandestine way. Women can text these lines or call if that's appropriate, and there are safeguards around how you can get the kind of support. So you are not at risk, or the risk is minimized, but you can definitely tap in. Next. How has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted women? Women are less equipped for all of that is going on. We are all suffering from it. Women are with the kids at home. Not only that but it's compounded by the abuser who you would normally be with and perhaps have time to escape, and now 24/7. So one of the things that we will look at is how to circumvent some of the abuse situations. Scheduling a time, we could check in with some of the people in our community, whether it's by phone or by Zoom or email, check in to make sure that they're okay. For those that you know, for women that you suspect or you know deal with some of the challenges, tap into providing the support. And with the resources, share the resources generously so that we know that they can, there's support out there. There's some negative things about COVID and women experiencing violence. There's a high rate of depression, we know. There's, of course, the isolation. Statistic I will share with you is Toronto Public Health. We're only 9% of the population in Toronto, but we have 21% of the people who have gotten COVID. And that says something. COVID is exacerbated by some of the underlying issues. We know underhousing, overhousing. We know employment. People in the community are the first to be let go. They're also very much the ones that are client-based, client face-to-face contact in the types of nurturing jobs like childcare, elder care, those kinds of things. And that we know from the experience, that is where a lot of the COVID clusters are. So unfortunately, the pandemic has really impacted women of color in Toronto. Yeah, I think that's where we are. Next one. 8. As I mentioned, we're desperately disproportionate in the kind of people who are impacted by COVID-19. Women of color are at an economic disadvantage, loss of wages, loss of self-sufficiency. That impacts food insecurity, financial independence. We know that the stats are saying that there's a large percentage of women of color who are sole support parents. And of course, the financial impact will definitely impact how we support our children. We also know that the disproportionate impact on women of color is that often the ability to take time off. Some people are privileged so that they can take time off. However, we know what the stats are saying is that women of color in the career and employment that they're in, the ability to take time off is not as readily available. Next. Next slide. So I guess the question that I want to pose is, think about how we can support individual. How do we determine effective community of care? How do we make sure that those apparatus are in place? And as Audre Lorde said, and I love this quote, there's no such thing as a single issue struggle, because we don't live single issue lives. Our lives are complicated. They're compounded by different intersections of challenges, housing, employment, underemployment, and all the other things that goes with it. So I just pose to you the question, how do we maintain effective communities of care during this widespread time? And that is to reach out, to engage, to be a support, somebody that you believe might ask our sisters if they need our support in any way, and be a voice to make changes. And as the Americans are going through right now, vote if you can. Vote on issues of conscience. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I like that quote, no single issue struggle. That is fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone.